all the anxiety out there, right? We're going to look at their analysis of what just went down and, more importantly, what they think could be coming next.
Yeah, this is the big question, isn't it? The one on every single investor's mind. You can almost feel the panic in the air, that feeling like after such a great run, the floor is just giving away. So, where does it stop? And what on earth happens after that?
So to try and get our bearings in all this chaos, we're going to look at the market through the eyes of one particular technical analyst. And get this is someone who actually predicted this drop weeks before it happened. Their whole method gives us a really unique way to maybe, just maybe, make sense of all this volatility.
All right, so let's get into it. Before we can even talk about what this analyst thinks is going to happen next, we have to go back. We need to look at a key prediction they made about the very drop we just saw. Seriously, this is the foundation for everything else we're about to discuss.
So check this out. A few weeks ago, this analyst pointed to this exact level on the Nifty, 25,290. They said it wasn't just some random number, it was a line in the sand. They warned that if the market closed below that point, its whole structure would weaken, basically opening the floodgates for a big fall. And well, that's exactly what happened.
And what's really fascinating here is just how specific this forecast was. Based on their math, this wasn't just some random fall. They had a very clear target for the downside, 24,100. That was supposed to be the landing spot, the bottom of this correction.
But, and here's where it gets wild, the market didn't just hit that target. It blew right past it. I mean, it plunged over 1,000 points below it. This was a shock, even for the analyst who saw the drop coming in the first place. And it was a huge signal that, okay, there's something much deeper and more complicated going on here.
So you're probably asking, how on earth can anyone make predictions this specific, right? Well, the method this analyst uses is all based on something called Gann theory. And it's a really interesting way of looking at things that basically boils down to two key ideas that work together.
Okay, so principle number one is this. The market almost never, ever just turns on a dime at one single price. That's not how it works. Instead, it moves in zones. You can think of them like cushions of support or ceilings of resistance. It's just a much more realistic, kind of flexible way of looking at how prices actually move around.
Now, the second big idea, and honestly, this might be the most powerful part of it all, is that time is just as important as price. So this analyst is always looking for what they call time turning windows. We're not talking about a single date here, but a specific period of time, a window where the chances of a major trend reversal are super high.
Okay, so that's the theory. How does it apply to what's happening right now? Well, by putting those two things together, the price zones and the time windows, the analyst has basically laid out a roadmap for what could come next, and it points to some key things we should all be watching like a hawk.
So this table here, it's basically the new battlefield. Forget 25,290, that's in the rearview mirror now. All eyes are on this new major support zone, right around 22,766. But look, the most important number here, the absolute do not cross line in the sand for this whole bull market, is that 2023 low, 21,743.
And here's why that number is so critical. The analyst's entire long-term bullish view really comes down to one simple rule. In a strong, healthy bull market, the index just shouldn't break below the previous year's low. It's as simple as that. So staying above 21,743, it's completely non-negotiable if you're a bull.
And this is where that whole time element we were talking about comes back into play, big time. The price levels tell us what to watch, but this timeline here tells us when. The analyst has flagged the week of March 17th to the 24th as the next huge critical time turning window. That's the period where a bottom or a major reversal is most likely to happen. But there's a pretty big catch here, a word of caution. Remember that crazy 1,000-point overshoot we talked about? Well, the analyst thinks the market was sending us a message with that. And that message is, even if we find a bottom in this time window, don't be surprised if the market comes all the way back down to test that low again sometime in the next few months. Okay, so we've got all the pieces on the board now, right? The past prediction, those Gann principles of price and time, and this roadmap for the future. So let's pull all the way back and answer the one big question we started with, using this whole framework. So the bottom line is this. Despite all the fear out there, despite this sharp, painful drop, the analyst's final conclusion is really firm. They're saying, no, this is not the start of a crash. Instead, they see it as a really severe, but ultimately expected, panic low that's happening inside of a much, much bigger trend, a mega bull run. And one more interesting thing to point out, not every part of the market is acting the same way. The analyst sees a real difference in strength.
They think the Bank Nifty is holding up the best. It's the most resilient. The broader Nifty is kind of in the middle, neutral. And the Sensex? That's looking like the weakest of the bunch right now.
So let's just sum this all up. From this analyst's point of view, it's actually pretty clear. Yeah, this drop was painful, and it went deeper than they thought, but it was still an expected panic low. And as long as that critical 2023 low holds up and we see some kind of turn in that key March time window, then the bigger picture, that long-term positive trend, should still be totally intact.
And, that leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought to chew on. This entire analysis, it takes all the complexity, all the emotion, all the pure chaos of millions of people buying and selling, and boils it all down to just two simple things: price and time. Which really makes you wonder, could the market's biggest secrets really be hidden in a code that's that simple?